Yeah, thank you. I just give me a second. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiran, and today I'm presenting and I'll be discussing a launch center with all of you. So let's go. So this is the agenda of my today's discussion. First, we'll see what is a launch phase. Then, how if we are planning to launch from Mars, what can we practice to do that at Habitat Marte? What are the technologies and knowledge we need to have, astronauts and scientists, and protocols and references. So let's go to the first mission. When we are talking about the space missions con- are consisting of four phases. One of them is launch phase. So before launching the rocket, let's see how it works. So when it comes to launch the rocket, first thing first comes to our mind is nothing but the fundamentals. So let's just have an overlook at some fundamental laws. So when it comes to rocket launching, we have studied this during our schooling, Newton's third law of motion. How does it help to launch the rocket? As you can see in two images, the first one and the last one. First of all, what states the Newton's third law of motion? It's just a one sentence. It states that for every action in nature, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So exactly that's what we are practicing here. When we are igniting the fuel, the force, which is the action, is directing at the bottom. That force helps the rocket to go upwards in the up direction. This force, which helps the rocket to launch and to go in the forward direction, is called thrust in rocket science. Then, what's the difference between launching a rocket and flying a plane? Or when we launch the satellite, some satellites stay there in the orbit, and some satellites or the rockets or the spacecraft they go out of the gravitational influence of Earth. So for that, we follow specific speed or velocity, which is known as escape velocity. I have on the right hand side, you can see a small derivation of escape velocity. I'm not going to explain it that as we have already studied it during our schooling. But if you want, if anybody wants me to emphasize on that point, then after the presentation, I can give you the explanation of it. So let's have a quick look. So by following that formula, so that formula, like escape velocity, it doesn't matter what's the mass of the rocket or what's the mass we are launching. It just depends on the mass and the gravitational influence of that particular the respective planet. As you can see, I have mentioned the rotation speed. I'll tell you how it matters in in a few minutes. So as you can see, rotational speed at equator and polar is different. And why it is like that? Because as we know, all planets are not ideally spherical. They are bulgy at the equator and slightly flattened at the polar region. And that's why the rotational speeds are different at equator and polar. And it plays a vital role when we are launching a rocket. And because why the rotational speeds are different? So you can see the radius over here. We don't follow the polar and equatorial radius. We go for volumetric mean radius. Let's go to this slide. So now we know what's the basic things we need to know for launching the rocket. Second thing is that when we are talking about thrust, which helps the rocket to launch, how to achieve that thrust or how to give that force. So for that we need fuel, and there are two types of fuel systems. One is solid fuel system and another one is liquid fuel system. In the images, solid fuel, in the solid fuel system, fuel and oxidizer. Oxidizer is nothing but a chemical component which helps the fuel to burn. So they both are powder, both are in a powdered form and they are mixed together and placed it as a cake inside the fuel system. Whereas in liquid fuel systems, we use the fuel and oxidizer both in a liquid form and they both are stored in separate tanks. So what is the difference between these two fuel systems? First is that solid fuel system is simpler, cheaper, less in weight, and less in weight. Whereas in liquid fuel system, as you can see, there are two tanks. That's why it's heavy, it's complex, and it's expensive. Then why do we use solid fuel system whereas we are getting liquid fuel systems, or why we are using liquid fuel system when we are having simpler and cheaper solid fuel system? So the main difference is that in solid fuel system, you can see once we ignite the fuel, once the combustion chamber is getting heated up, there is nothing to stop the combustion. We can't regulate the resulting thrust. So fuel has to be burned out completely, and till that time we can't stop the rocket. Whereas in liquid fuel system, we can control the flow of gases, or how else is fluid, and that's how we can control the combustion chamber, and we can regulate the thrust. Now, in earlier missions, most of the earlier missions, NASA and other space agencies were using solid fuel systems, but now for all the missions, they are going for liquid fuel systems. Even the SpaceX Falcon 9 is using the liquid fuel system. Okay, now we know the fundamentals. Let's see what are the essential requirements when it comes to rocket launching. So first we'll see types of fuels. We just saw what are the fuel systems are there. Let's see what goes inside it. So in solid fuel system, there is a fuel, oxidizer, and catalyst. Catalyst is nothing but which helps the reaction to get faster. So we can see there is it doesn't matter what, and first of all, this is not exhausting list. It means many are there, but these are the most favorite ones. Even compared to carbon, aluminum powder is the most favorite fuel in the industry, as aluminum is one of the most abundant metal on earth, and it's highly reactive. It's super reactive that we can't even found the aluminum in the pure form. Second is liquid fuel system. In liquid fuel system, there are two types of fuels we use, either liquid hydrogen or highly refined kerosene. Highly refined kerosene is used for low altitude missions, whereas liquid hydrogen is used for high altitude missions. Sorry. And oxidizers, as an oxidizer, we are using liquid oxygen. Now we put the fuel in our rocket. Now from where we can launch it and when? So geography and time. You must be remembered that just 2 slides before I've talked about the rotational speed and the equator and polar region. Okay, now I'm not gonna teach you the math, so don't worry about it. Just look at the formula which I have put it down over here. So why it is important? As you can see, the entire that W Earth is nothing but the angular velocity of Earth. So radius anyways we are using the mean radius. We are not going for the particular radius for polar and equator region. But you can see there is a cos theta. So it means that let's see first I'll tell you about the momentum. What is momentum? Momentum is nothing but mass into velocity. So if we want to throw something, or if we want to give the momentum to some object, we have to throw it at a right point and from the right place. So as the radius, or not the radius, the theta. So when we are close to the equator, the velocity of rotation, or any planet's rotation, is very high, and that's how it can boost the momentum of rocket, and that helps a lot to save the fuel. Again, sidereal rotation and period. What is sidereal? Sidereal rotation is nothing but Earth rotating around around its own axis. So sidereal rotation, that is also matter a lot, as our Earth rotates east to west. So it's important to launch the rocket eastward to save the fuel and to get the momentum. Period is also matter because Earth not always go to, it will go from east and then it will go to west, and again west to east it will come. Not west to east, like east to west. So we have to launch the rocket in such a way that when it is going to Earth, when it is moving from east to almost west, like halfway, our rocket supposed to move out of the gravitational influence. Another thing is weather. We have heard that rocket launch are getting cancelled because of the bad weather. I have put only 3 conditions here, but there are total 14 conditions which a rocket launching agencies or rocket launch center has to follow before launching the rocket. So first thing is that wind speed. The rocket launch center, they check the wind speed at 162 feet. If it is more than 30 miles per hour or 48 kilometer per hour, we can't launch the rocket because it can change the direction of the rocket. Again, at 4,500 feet, the temperature should not be freezing cold. And third is lightning. If any lightning is being recorded in 30 minutes around the 30 miles, then the rocket launch is supposed to be cancelled. There are different conditions, so it's not like hard and core rules, but hard and fast rules, but we have to follow this basic thing. Okay, now we have fuel ready. We know the geography, we know the weather, everything is good. So now what is this? Now it comes to launch control center, which do lot of testing. So launch control center does all pre-launch checkouts for booster and spacecraft at 3 different platforms. And believe me, launch processing system is fully automated. None of the human being is um, none of the human being has to do all the testing. Everything is fully automated. It does all checkouts like for payload to orbital interfaces verification, firing test, external tank hardware verification, all sensors check, hardware check, and again it also conducts countdown and launching operations. At Launchpad, these after performing this task, they also charge the spacecraft and upper stage battery. After the liftoff, till the liftoff, Launch Control Center has the control to the over the mission, and then the control is over to the mission control center. Now this is not fully automated. Here our role is there. So mission control center, after liftoff, it handles and monitors the mission till the landing or the end of the mission. And all the signals are sent, and the communication which happens between the spacecraft and us is through ground station. During the mission control center, all the representatives of following departments are present and they have to be there. So you can read like attitude control system, forward, propulsion, thermal, attitude dynamics, orbital operations, and other system basically. Okay, now we learned basics about launching. Now let's see if we are launching from Mars, how it can be. So first, before going to launching, let's see how Mars is different than Earth. So as we have Earth sciences in our curriculum, I just made as Mars sciences. So first, let's see how big or small Mars is done compared to Earth. So planetary sciences, you can see the Mars radius again. You can see at equatorial it is bulgy and little flattened at polar region. Rotational speed. Surprisingly, I couldn't find a rotational speed at equator and polar region for Mars. I don't know whether that data is available or not. Then escape velocity. You can see the escape velocity for Mars is very less compared to Earth. It means the gravitational influence or the gravity force is comparatively very less. And sidereal period is almost equal to the Earth. Second is average soil composition. See how much air and water is there on Earth, whereas compared to the Mars, while very less water is there, and why we are, and you'll see why we are seeing this soil composition for launching very soon. Second is Martian atmosphere. So when we are launching, it also important to see atmospheric pressure. So as we know, the Mars has very thin atmosphere, and you can see at the numbers, and you'll amaze that on Earth at the sea level, atmospheric pressure is 14.7. Okay, PSI is a unit to measure the pressure. It's nothing but Newton per meter square only, but it is in different scales. So it is pound force per square inch. And at Mars, it's 0.095. It means it's very thin. Second is weather. We know that Mars is very windy, but I just checked a few data, and it is the latest data, and I saw that it's windy, but it's not more than 10 meter per second. That is 36 kilometer per hour. So winds are there, but they are not very speedy, and so it doesn't look that bad to us right now. Again, wind direction is also important. Most as the Mars also rotates from east to west, most of the winds are flowing from east to west, and some are going from east to north. Magnetosphere. We see why we are seeing at the magnetosphere of Mars. As Earth has core, metallic core, it has molten iron and nickel at the core, and that's why, and because of the molten iron is moving, our Earth is having a strong magnetic field. But Mars, on the other side, Mars doesn't have its own generated magnetic field. But solar winds get react solar winds react with the thin atmospheric layer of Mars and the induced magnetosphere for Mars. Okay, one more thing I want to know. I wanted to tell you that all the references, I have put references in the last slide, but you can see on the side, blue color, these are all hyperlinks. You can click and check the sources. Okay, after learning a little bit about Mars for launching, let's see what can be the challenges. First thing first, fuel. So for fuel, do we have all the required elements on Mars? Let's see, for solid fuel, these are the important things we need to have. First, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. These are the gases. And yes, we do have, as we know, the most abundant gas on Mars is CO2. So from there, we can get carbon and oxygen. And second abundant gas is nitrogen. Then potassium, sulfur, aluminium, chlorine, nickel. All these metals are available either in Martian soil, crust, or mantle. So we are good to go. But we haven't found the cobalt and neodymium on Mars. So we don't have these two, but we have the others, so we can go for other Mars systems, other fuel systems. Let's see what if we want to use the liquid fuel system. So For liquid fuel system, the main source is nothing but the water, as water is a source of hydrogen and oxygen. So liquid hydrogen, as we know, at the polar region of Mars, we have seen ice, and all the rovers and the future missions are looking to get that ice to the base system, to the base unit. So liquid fuel system also we can obtain. Another thing is that we know that hydrogen is the most abundant gas in the universe, but it is useful only if we have magnetic field. Now you can see why we were studying, why we are looking at the magnetosphere. Because if we have a magnetic field, we can capture, or that goes in a little technical discussion. I will not go to that point, but magnetic field holds the atmospheric, like universal hydrogen gas, and we can get it from there. Second is weather. On Earth, it's very easy to forecast the weather and to monitor the weather, as we have weather forecasting radar. We have ground-based weather radar. We have airborne and spaceborne radars also. But on Mars, we don't have that. So it will be challenging to know the weather if there is a dust storm before launching the rocket. Second is a launch center. So at launch center, we know it is fully automated, so we don't have to care about it. But as we know, the Mars is very dusty, and that's why we were looking at the soil content. As we saw in the soil composition, let's go back and let's see. See, only 2% water is there. It means everything else is regolith. It's not bounded. Water binds the soil, and it can hold the soil. Whereas on Mars, we have very less moisture. That's why when we are launching the rocket, when the extreme force is there, there are high chances that the soil can it can blow up the soil. Not blow up, like soil can it can cause a dust storm a little. So for launch pad, again we have to protect it, and while launching we have to think about. Now, MCC stands for Mission Control Center. As we know that Mission Control Center is not automated, but for the worst case scenario, whenever we are designing a mission, we have to think about the worst case scenario too. So during the worst case scenario, let's see what if all the astronauts have to evacuate the base and they have to get into the rocket. Then who will monitor and who will contact them during the launching? So for that, we need to have fully automated mission control center. It means highly AI and ML system. AI is for and stands for artificial intelligence, and ML stands for machine learning. Okay, let's see what we can practice at Habitat Marte. So as we saw that for Mars, we need to have ground-based radar. So what we can do, we can design a remote sensing system. Though we have on Earth all the weather systems, still we can design a remote sensing system which will forecast or which will monitor only dust storms without using GPS, without getting any help or any receiving any signals from satellites or other ground-based radars. And we'll see the how precise uh, how precise results it is giving. Second is the magnetosphere. We need to study the Martian magnetosphere because it is not studied yet in that detail. So we have to study the magnetosphere of Mars to check whether there is a possibility of launching airborne or spaceborne radar systems. Again, why magnetic field is important? Because magnetic field protects all the satellites from solar radiation, solar winds, and cosmic radiation. And I don't believe me or not, the magnetic field of Earth, which starts from 60 kilometers from sea level. When I say starts, you can see the effect of magnetic field. You can feel the effect of it till the three to fourth radii of Earth from Earth's surfaces. So it's quite large. So it covers almost, it covers more than what our GPS system is located right now. Next is Martian soil. NASA um, NASA already has created the Martian soil simulant. Even at University of Florida, University of Michigan, they are preparing Martian soil simulant, and they are conducting different experiments. So at Habitat Marte, we also can start preparing a Martian soil simulant, not for the biological purposes, but for fuel purposes. So for launch center, I'm saying. So we can prepare the soil simulant. We can see if we can segregate all the chemical components which are required to produce rocket fuel. Then hydrogen fuel cells for clean and green energy. We should use hydrogen fuel cells in different facilities. And again, the byproducts of hydrogen fuel cells are nothing but water and heat. So if it is giving water, it means we can use it as a source of hydrogen and oxygen for our fuel. So, and the good thing is that hydrogen fuel cells give out distilled water, which is very good for the process. Next is mission control center. We can try designing fully automated mission control center to perform all aspects of mission. Okay, let's see what are the technologies we require for all these tasks to perform. For radar systems, we need to design an antenna, transceiver antenna. It means the same antenna will transmit the signal and receive the signal. So at the same time, our radar system can be passive and can be active. So passive radar system, it means it is just receiving signals or receiving data from the nature, and active, it means it is sending the signals, and then by receiving the response, it will receive the response. We need power source for antenna. We need a communication system. Once we receive the signal through antenna, we need these are little technical things. So ADC, DAC, all are analog to digital controller, converter, digital to analog converter, encoder, modulator, decoder or demodulator, noise filter, amplifier, etc. We will be needing computer-based analyzing tools and simulation tools. For soil processes, separation process, we need proper lab, and in that we will be performing sponge is for first stage, then centrifugation and cyclonic separation, filtration, chromatography, electrophoresis, extraction and flotation. We need hydrogen fuel cells. For that, we need power source for charging, and not only hydrogen fuel cells, we will need different water source also for H2 and O2. I have put few articles for astronauts and scientists, which will help them. Okay, let's see the protocol. So first, safety comes first for everyone, for human being as well as for all the equipment. So whenever there is a power station, there are high chances of getting short circuits or faults. Not high chances, but there are chances of the failure. So if anything goes wrong, astronauts have to put all the systems off, and they should coordinate with the team at power station. We have to keep a backup source always ready to protect temperature sensitive components, as we will be doing experiments at lab work or at food, like at health and food centers. There must be temperature sensitive objects which we have to protect. For that, we have to keep a backup power source. In case of dust storm, if there is a dust storm, it can harm or it can cause few damages to radar system, because radar system will be out in the nature. So we have to conduct EVA to examine the ground-based radar system and perform necessary tasks based on the situation. Other than the dust storm, we have to conduct an EVA once a week to monitor the ground-based radar system. As it will be dusty, as we are talking about the Mars, it will be Martian surface. it will be dusty. So we have to keep on keep on monitoring at the ground based radar. Other than that, after works get done, all the astronauts have to participate in social events conducted by health centers so that their mental health also um, will be good. So they also have to practice they also have to practice physical activities, meditation, and other entertainment activities on a regular basis. Very important thing is that when you are working, you are not working in a one department. There are different departments which are codependent. So ensure that all the reports are being discussed from time to time with codependent departments. Impacts to the sustainable goals. When you are talking about space missions, it's always global. So this is the global goal. We are going for clean energy. We are aiming for clean energy, so it is affordable and clean energy. We are go. We will be having industrial and innovation infrastructure and partnership for the goal. These are the references, and thank you. I'm open for Q&A session. If you have any questions, please go forward and I'll stop sharing my screen.